Money on my mind, gotta hustle and grind. Financial literacy always on my mind. I'm stacking knowledge, no time to waste. Gotta invest smart, gotta keep up the pace. I'm reading books, learning all the tricks, studying the market, making calculated picks.
What's good? It's Reckless Raid and Aaron. We are back at it again with another episode, welcoming you to Bag Fortification Friday. The reason we drop these videos on Fridays is because it is a good reminder of the importance of having your financial affairs in order. It's a good way to be fully transparent, because I know that I like to talk about money. I like to talk about financial strategy. I like to talk about getting to the bag. I am getting to the bag as much as I can. Like to talk about retiring early, planning on doing that. There's a bunch of stuff that I like to talk about over here, but a lot of these people out here in these YouTube streets apparently have the perfect situation. Apparently everybody, especially when I'm knee deep in the Reddit space as well. Everyone has the perfect situation, and they are talking down the mountain at you. They're the prototype. Nothing in their life is wrong. They've done everything right. They've gone step A plus B equals C every single time. And all you got to do is, and this is just what it is. And there's no peek behind the veil aside from curated peaks. They're not given the situation. You're getting no numbers. And everyone has all the money in the world to just invest at the drop of a hat. As soon as they're ready to just start taking investing seriously, poof, there's $100,000, and that's just what they're starting with. And every portfolio is six figures. They're not showing you how they built it to six figures. They just started there, and they spin up these portfolios because they're bored. So, over here on Future Financial Strategies, we're trying to take a slightly different approach. And I'm just documenting a journey. I'm documenting my journey. I'm not giving suggestions. I'm giving what I'm doing. I'm doing these things with my money. I am giving all the other tea about what I'm doing. So I figured, got a little bit of debt built up. We went through some scenarios and some circumstances that people love to just throw in people's faces. Oh, you are privileged. You never had to go through this. Well, I'm literally gone through it. I went through my financial crucible. And I'm pretty sure it's probably, karma, fate, whatever. When you start talking about money, you start beating your chest, you get tested. And I've come through the other side of that fire. We're going through we've gone through the trials, and now we're in the tribulations. We'll put it that way. But I figured I'd start doing this tracker of how I attack this debt, because I'm not attacking it in the conventional canned answer fashion that they give to people who are financially illiterate, which is liquidate all your assets, pay the debt off as soon as possible. You don't want to have debt. You can't sleep good. I sleep great right now, just by the by. But you can't sleep good. Your life's just going to be in shambles. It's a terrible way to be. The debt man's going to just be calling to collect, which only happens if you're actually not paying the debt. Just throwing that out there as context. But the thought process is give up your positions that you have now, give up the assets, give up the generational wealth, get everything out of the way to pay these people back their money. But when you look at how wealthy people actually navigate, they don't pay people back first. Not if it's going to cost them. They're not sacrificing their future to pay a creditor. They're not giving up positions that are going to be pivotal or opportunities that are going to make them an order of magnitude more money than what they owe said creditor. They'll manage the debt. And so going in line with that, all the debt that I currently have, and we're going to talk about how we got into the situation because it's the year-end recap. So we got to talk about where it came from. How do we get this much debt? Why do you have debt in the first place? Reckless, Raid, and Narrow. Nobody has debt. None of the financial gurus have debt. The debt-free is the way to be. Cash is king. Well, I don't believe any of that stuff. I'm not a financial guru either. So I got two things going for me. That I don't believe the stuff that people tell me that want me to be incentivized to work until I'm 70, 80, whatever. They're wanting you to work to death. They want you to be a cog in the system. And I also don't intend to indefinitely be in a position to where I'm having to work. Matter of fact, I'm not planning on being in that position any longer than 31 months now. We're doing the countdown. So we're gonna jump into it. But before we jump into it, I got one important question for you. And that is, have you hit the like button? Have you? Because I need it. We've been getting our view counts on some of these videos are going up. We're doing a little bit of tweaking over here. It's not perfect. Like I said, we're still teasing out stuff. And mainly this is a documentation of a journey. I'm not getting paid to be here. This is just me shooting off my shots, getting that big money energy off, getting that I'm growing financially energy off, getting that, it's pretty interesting being financially stable and not dysgenic, because I know a lot of you over accentuate for the money. By the way, if you just heard that comment and you felt a little something about it, do 10 push-ups and maybe follow that up with like 20 sit-ups, so that way you can start fixing the problem ahead of time. But we definitely want to do that. If you're hate watching, which I'm sure I've got some hate watchers out here, tap in, hit the subscribe button so that you can hate more effectively. Because the game's being given. So like I really don't have much room for excuses when you have umpteen people. If you don't want to listen to me, you got Wall Street Trapper, you got the Stidhams, you got all sorts of people that are just making financial content. Ramit Sethi, you got Ramit, you got all these people that are trying to help you fix your financial situations. And all you got to do is just listen and maybe try some stuff and act on some of the things that you're hearing. And you've got people like me who are not at the mountaintop yet that you probably don't want to listen to, because that's the insult that you get is like, oh, Ray, you're not there yet. And I'm like, when I'm there, you won't be able to do what I did to get here. That's the reality of the situation. Here in another 10 years, we're not going to be, people are going to be like, oh, how did you do X, Y, Z? Bitcoin. Oh, well, like I want to do that. Well, it's $500,000 now. Best of luck to you. Also, no one's selling. Also, those of us who have it are just holding on to it and leveraging it. But, hope it works out. Like, all you got to do is buy some Bitcoin. And I mean, I'll still be buying Bitcoin at 500,000. So it's what it is. But you've got people both on the top of the mountain, people at the base of the mountain, people on their way up the mountain that are giving you information, and you're sitting here making excuses for why you're where you're at, wanting to feel sorry for yourself, making your end of year post about how 2024 was so hard. It's so hard. Yeah, every year's hard for you because you're not moving forward. You have no forward motion and you have no plan and no intent to change anything, and you're doing nothing but complaining about it the whole time. So as opposed to doing that, I figure, you know what? We'll cast the gem amongst swine. I'll be the person who has to be the bad guy. I'll tell you that, yes, you can make some different decisions. You should make some different decisions. And yeah, if I was in your situation, it would suck. And I'd probably be, at least at minimum, internally complaining about it. But the other thing that I would do, because I'm me and not you, is I would actively be rectifying the situation while complaining. I would be able to take the harsh feedback when somebody says, hey, do better. And I would start doing better. Even if it's just a little bit. And you know what? I would complain a little bit less publicly, because no one's going to respect that. No one respects whiners. I understand that there's a whole victim Olympia club where people just fetishize, things are so bad, everything's so hard, the world's out to get me and I can't move forward. And other people just get on there and like it, and they're like, yeah, me too, my year sucked also. Don't be friends with those people. Sorry, but like literally, those people are life cancer. And not only are they life cancer, they're not getting, their situation's not improving. So you guys are all not moving forward together. Make that make sense. If you look around and everyone around you sucks and everyone is co-signing you regressing to their mean, maybe you should start listening to the person that's telling you can do better. Also, the person who's putting out content that literally you can look at somebody who's trying to do better while they're in the same position, close to at least where you are. Just saying, we all out here in the mud right now, because either you're rich or you're not. There's no longer a middle class. So guess what? I ain't rich yet, but I'm trying. And I do believe that there's a clearly defined path, provided people make decisions and sacrifices. So the reason we do these, I started doing the Debt Crusher update is because a lot of people, their canned answer is you have to have assets to get rid of debt. You remove your assets, give up your future opportunity, and then start from scratch after your debt is cleared. And I am not choosing to do that. Do my assets cover my debts? Yes, I'm still ahead, even when we do this update, because this month isn't going the direction that we wanted to go. Well, not necessarily that we wanted to go, that we were trying to go, because like obviously we set up some stuff in place to help turbocharge the debt down, but we also have another strategy in place where we are preparing for tax season, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to owe this year because I made too much money. It's going to be the thing, and it's not that I made too much money at my job, because I don't seek to maximize the money at my job at this point, because I have figured out a different path. It's one of the paths that we talk about over here. We do the high yield dividends over here. We have a show, Future Financial. Well, I mean, on this channel, our Thursday update, we have a portfolio update that we're doing now every month that you guys are going to be getting that you guys have gotten for 2024. If you're watching throughout the week and you're tapping in with the content, a lot of these strategies that we're using, we're back in full bore on said strategies. Like we're going to town, like we're doing the work. So my priority is focusing on maximizing that income. And we did do that this year. The portfolio update was what it was. Like I say all the time, the numbers don't lie. And this is a channel where somebody has to tell you the truth. Like I'm not giving you pie in the sky. I'm giving you a reality of what we've done. You've been tracking with me as I've done it. This isn't something special. This isn't something where I'm making this up. So in doing that, we've accrued some debt. So 2024, let's talk about the debt that we accrued. Now, as a crypto bro, I leverage my credit cards, especially at the beginning of the year. Generally every year up to this year, because we're not going to be doing it this year so much, because we're going to be more in turtle mode. We're going in turtle mode, and I'll explain what that is as we get into the show. But what I was allowing myself, I allowed myself $5,000 in credit card debt that's revolving. Like I'm normally just actively chunking it down or paying it. But if it gets to a point where I need to expand debt, and the only reason we do that is to purchase assets. So when I'm funneling money into crypto, or I'm really focused on a portfolio and I'm trying to get into some positions, I'll give myself up to $5,000. At $5,000, I'm like, cool, the spigot's empty. I'm going to start paying this down aggressively. What we were doing and what we had started doing, I said before we get into the bull run year, my goal was to get rid of that $5,000 in debt. And then what happened? Life happened. Now, up until this point, this had not been an issue. We made a couple of very pivotal changes that kind of bit me in the butt because I did not financially prepare for them. But we're going to be doing an episode on the thing that I did that bit me in the butt. I'm going to be doing again, and we're going to get financially positioned. I'm going to break that down on how I'm moving forward with that. But I switched my insurance to a high deductible plan. And the reason I did that was because there's some tax benefits for having the health savings account, and I wanted to explore using that strategy. And then I ended up getting a major surgery that needed to happen. I severed my Achilles, came in two pieces, I got cut open, had to have it put back together. And fortunately, I was blessed enough to be able to skip a few lines because, it's not what you know, it's who you know, and get my surgery done within 5 days of the injury, which is awesome. Really cool. Also really expensive. And then as I'm recovering for that, found out some other stuff about the insurance system, which when it comes to physical therapy, they don't give you enough sessions to actually get healed. They give you enough sessions to get you probably about 30% to where you were. But like if you want to walk with like a persistent limp and be messed up forever, on some form or fashion. So you had to pay out of pocket. So I had to pay that out of pocket. Also, as we're starting physical therapy, getting into physical therapy. So I was still under the insurance plan, which was cool. Those sessions were only $15. Then it jumped up to 110. But on top of that, so you're looking at about $10,000 for the surgery, all the expenses there. Then you have the ongoing expense of physical therapy, which I was in for, it felt like forever, but I'd say almost 7-8 months, something like that. Or no, it wasn't 7 or 8 months. I think it was Honestly, I think it was like 6. It was like 5 or 6. Okay, so I'm in physical therapy for 5 or 6 months, but like when I started off, I was going 3 times a week, scaled it down to once a week, and then graduated out of physical therapy at the once a week level. But a majority of those sessions were at $110 a pop. So you're doing that. That's almost 110. So that's $440 a month on top of us having to pay back the debt for the surgery. And before we got to the $110 a month for physical therapy, the head gasket of my car blew, and I was not in a position to where financially I wanted to incur a long-term debt of like buying a new car. It did not make sense, and it would have added another consistent bill. So I had to fork over $5,000 to get my car fixed. And I do like my car. Up until that point, it's been extremely reliable. Like I drove it into a hole and it still works. Like Lexuses are a good. I mean, that expense aside, the car's been basically flawless, and I've gotten more out of it than what I paid for it. But it's a paid off vehicle, so I was like, I'm not ready to buy a car. I don't want to incur a massive expense. So long story short, when we started this, we were sitting a little bit over 28K. And, when I started doing this, like we're starting it at the crux of what it was. And it's funny and interesting because the last time we were in the bull run, I leveraged my Bitcoin to pay off about $35,000 in debt. And here we are, like come back, but like, how do we get here? It's like life things that just kept stacking and stacking and stacking and stacking. And, a lot of people talk about, a lot of people are 3 bad weeks or 2 bad weeks at this point because of the way the economy is from being homeless. And I'm like, I was on the couch for a month and a half. Had to go back on light duty, limited hours. Like like managing the pain meds and all that stuff. And I see how those things happen. Like now that I've been through it, I'm like, cool. Like I can't even contest that. But one of the things that saved me was the decisions that I made as soon as I injured myself. We did the video. I pulled out $8,000 in debt and credit arbitrage to start some positions just in case I lost my job so that I could at minimum pay for this stuff from the couch, pay for my house. Like I could afford to stay at home and eat a little bit. That's where my mind went. Like a lot of y'all just spiral like you have no plan. Also, we had some assets in place. So I had some stuff that I would be able to, if I had to, I could eat off that for a little bit too. But I had options. It wasn't like there was $0 anywhere. Like I had built myself up to a certain point to where it's like, okay, like when those horrible 2 weeks, because I had a horrible 6 months. Actually, it wasn't a horrible 6 months. It was a horrible probably 3 months. Now it's like a horrible 4 months, the way that it stretched out because of the stacked expenses. Then your car breaks. You got to get that. And, one of the things they always tell you, credit doesn't matter. It sure is nice to have some buffer money. It's very nice to be able to go, that's expensive, but I got a car. I got a set. I can put this on a card. I didn't have to pull out 3 cards. I'll like swipe that. Done. I didn't have to, I wasn't scrambling. I wasn't pulling out multiple cards to make it happen because I have good credit. I've built up a buffer so that we can also be able to leverage that and make the moves that we're making with it. So there's that. That's also been a really good experience. But again, this rolls back to choices. So like, you got to prepare for the storm before you get into it. The thing is, it's hard to prepare for something where there's not necessarily a lot of information out there for that they don't give you. So me switching over to the HSA was what bit me in the butt, considering I had to have a major surgery right after I set this up, basically. So I had a little bit of money in the HSA. We did have to drain that. Again, front buffering the situation, and knowing what I know now, we'll be doing that different moving forward. But it put me in a position where we racked up on top of the 5,000 that I had, the additional, like an additional, I'm not even going to blame all of that on the medical, because it was like, what, we had 10,000 for the surgery, it's 15,000 including the car, plus 400 and something a month. So that's, I'd say about 18. I'm going to say I'm blaming 18 of that 1,000 on. And I mean, also we're still doing stuff, because like I got to get the car in a state to where like it's going to be reliable and drivable until it's time to trade it in. So I've been having to replace tires. So I'd say about 19,000. I had to replace tires. I got to get the brakes done still. Just stuff, just random car maintenance stuff. Like even if the cars pay off, you got to pay it. Like I'm going to have my taxes for it coming up. Like we got all that fun stuff. But I'm going to say $19,000 manifested itself into my life via those financial tragedies that visit upon people that they never financially recover from, and then they end up just broken, destitute forever. Now, looking at my assets, that is an inkling of my assets, and people will be like, "Oh, well, why don't you want to pay that off with the assets? Why wouldn't you liquidate the assets?" I'm like, because for me, the money in the market is more important than paying that off, because even with all those debts accumulated and put together, the interest that I'm making off the growth of those assets is more. So like I would lose money having to reposition, take the tax hit for selling off assets, and then moving those assets into cash to pay this debt off, and then have to reposition at a higher price than what I paid to get in. That's my logic. It served me well. My net worth's increased year over year. We don't have years where we're moving backwards. We're constantly running the bag up. We're moving forward. So like, I'm going to continue to do what works for me. I understand some people just can't deal with debt and can't deal. And so like, that's going to be your trajectory. I think that the outcomes on those are two different places. And I think mathematically, when you start factoring in opportunity costs, time value of money and such, it's a different conversation. But again, those are for the financially initiated, and most people aren't. So most people just believe what the guru's saying, just start liquidating assets. And then they wonder why they're having to go back to work, to go work and be a door greeter at Walmart, because you don't ever get to retire. Even though you focused on putting all your money into the retirement account so that they keep you in the workforce, so they keep cracking that whip on your back. Me personally, I ain't doing it. So with that said, let's go ahead and pull this up and see where we're at. And we're going to talk about it because like I said, we had some pretty big expenses. We did it big for New Year's. So I had some New Year's expenses. Like we had to buy some clothes. So where do we end up at the end of 2024? We're back at 28,846.29. And this might be $100 or so higher than what we were at. But as we're moving through here and looking at the debts and payments, we still got that medical debt that's on an auto pay at 0% interest. That's kind of been nice. We got the Capital One, which is our daily driver now. We're up at 1,300 on that, getting around to payday. We've got a couple of other payments that are coming out of that because I prepay all the utilities because I ain't having nothing turned off at the house. So we got the recoupment of that money. Got a little bit of that going in there. And then when we get paid, this normally gets zeroed out or put down to darn near zero. We've got the Citibank, the 10 grand that we originally had that we were doing for the arbitrage. We're paying on that still at 0% interest. Not really something that I'm looking at. We got the Discover that's almost gone at 0% interest. Now these, as we're moving through, are things that we might start looking to take bigger chunks at. The Chase Slate, I actually paid that off, but that payment hasn't landed yet. So that's about to be at zero. And then we have the Chase Sapphire. Obviously, this is where all those medical bills landed. And yeah, like we're we're sitting where we're sitting with it. It's we got a little bit of strategy going. We got a little bit left on this in-home banking, and we will not be redeploying that most likely for the next 3 months. So like what I'm probably going to be doing is this initial chunk of in-home banking money, I'm going to be, after we get this paid off, I'm going to take a look and see what the sum total is. I will probably, since we're not going to be redeploying those funds, I will probably be setting up a few more portfolios that are going to be targeted portfolios, because that's one of the things that we're looking at doing going into 2025. I'm going to be further strategically portioning out my brokerage account. I'm probably going to start with that. That's going to be one of my things. I'm going to have an in-home banking. The in-home banking pool I will have over into my brokerage account for these 3 months. I'm probably going to just put it in there, put it something on drip, and or I'll take the payments off of those and backfill into my bank account and just start rebuilding up my in-home banking over these next 3 months, just to kind of reset, because eventually what I'm looking at doing is having that just live in my brokerage account and hopefully get to a point to where it's like, hey, when we're cycling that in-home banking money, we're cycling it off of money where we're backfilling it. Like I'll backfill up to $1,000 and then just have that $1,000 to redeploy, and then piece that together with the Cash App, that's $1,650, and have an additional $1,650 that I can redeploy at the end of the month, pay it back the following month, rinse and repeat. And the proceeds off of the in-home banking can go into feeding that portfolio as well. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. And yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to see how that looks as one of the strategies that we're going to be doing, but this will be getting zeroed out soon. The Cash App obviously will be sitting on the sideline for the next 3 months, because we do not want to, if we're going to not be pulling out of the dividends to pay debt, we really probably shouldn't be deploying the Cash App at all, to be honest. I don't think, like, it doesn't make sense for me. And it seems like a way to just press myself and have less money. Like the money flow is just going to be a little bit weird for the 3 months that I'm not utilizing it and just building up my portfolios. But that's just the way that I'm looking at the other. Okay, so let's get into the strategy for 2025. One of the things we did was I went ahead and opened up another credit card line of credit. We ran with the Bank of America. They have a really good balance transfer plan. It's 18 months at 0% interest. Obviously, there's no such thing as a free lunch, so you're paying a percentage up front that they take, but within 18 months, that'll give us some more flexibility. And what we're using that specifically for is to attack this debt right here. Once that card gets in, we're gonna immediately be seeing exactly what they're gonna allow me to balance transfer off this, and then we'll have that going into a medium priority position, similar to the Citibank, but the Citibank's going to be in front of that. So we'll just be managing that debt for a few months. And what that's going to do is it's going to give us a little bit of breathing room on the interest payment on this lump sum. That's basically what we're doing. I understand people be like, oh, well, like you're just cascading debt. And it's like, I don't normally open up credit cards. I did it specifically for this while we're waiting during that period, because while we're building those payments up, as soon as March rolls around, we will be starting to redeploy those funds. We're taking January through March, those first 3 months, consolidating that into the portfolio to cover taxes. Because I'm looking at, we're probably going to be paying, and I'm probably going to pay those taxes, not necessarily selling off assets, but we're hoping that if the strategy works the way that I think it will, we're going to be paying it with, we're going to use the dividend payment to pay the tax bill. That's what we're looking at doing. Now, with that said, we are also going to start come April paying back into, chunking down these cards. So as we start chunking down, we've already done this once with the Citibank. Actually, we've done this twice with the Citibank. I normally, the $10,000, we have that on an 8-month cycle. So I've done this before, like 2 other times. This is the 3rd time I had a surgery show up. So like that added on to that. But that's how we were funding our crypto portfolio and a lot of the upfront costs for these portfolios. And I mean, this Discover position was $8,000. That was the last thing that I did before we when I got injured, was we pulled another 8 out to get into position in the high yield dividend portfolio, because I mean, obviously plays of desperation, but it was an option. And we've already got that almost taken care of. So the only thing that I'm not worried about at all is this medical debt, because it's on auto pay. It's auto paying out of the Chase Sapphire. That's the other thing. All the medical stuff is going on the Chase Sapphire. So like that auto pay was on there. Every single one of my physical therapy sessions is on that card. Like this card has been catching hell, which is why we're sitting there and people are like, oh, 23% interest. And I'm like, yeah, I'm getting more in that in growth over the long term. And pausing it for 3 months, moving this into a 0% interest position, and then it'll go to the back of the line and we'll just manage it. And then we'll start really focusing in, because right now the Capital One Quicksilver is the daily driver. But once this card gets cleared off, the reason I got the Chase Sapphire Reserve was to have it as the daily driver. So it's going to be the daily driver. We're going to be setting up some additional means of monetizing this credit. This doesn't really bother me, because at this point, like the only thing that I'm kind of really hankering for is getting this in-home banking paid off ASAP, so I can get that money into the brokerage account and get it to start building on itself. So that way we can start backfilling it to get the $1,000, so that within the 3 months we can get ourselves back into a position to where we are able to start deploying some funds out of that account, because it's the in-home banking and the velocity banking has been working, and we're going to continue using those skills and that strategy in tandem with the other strategies that we've got. But like I said, during this first couple of months of the year, while we're sorting out the tax situation, we're gonna be in turtle mode. I'm really not gonna be looking to make any large purchases. I'm not gonna be looking to really spend a whole lot of money, because obviously we're getting ready for tax season. We're trying to get that done. There's a couple of money moves that we're moving around. I've got to move some more of my home improvement funds over to kind of get that going. But outside of that, like we're going to truck along. I'm looking forward to when we start redeploying in April. I'm hoping we're going to be taking some big swings, and we'll see this once we start ramping back up full bore for the rest of the year. We're going to see the debt dramatically reduced and eliminated. That's the goal. Like I want to have this cleared out this year. That's kind of where I'm at with it. Like it needs to be back down to at minimum what my float is, which means we got $23,000 that we just got to get up out of here as quick as possible. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to focus it down. We're going to, because I don't want to walk out of this year over my float. Like I'm disappointed, but like we can't predict life. I can't predict this year, but I am disappointed that we walked out of 2024 where we were, because I'm not feeling it. I don't like it. I don't like having this much debt, so I'm not going to have it. But we're going to finish off on that note. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys rocking out with me. Definitely hit the like, leave me a comment. Let me know what you guys think. Nobody wants to talk to me on the videos about debt. Like, is that like, is this super taboo? Like, am I being too transparent? Like, what are we doing? But yeah. And if you've been here more than twice, definitely touch that subscribe. It's your boy, Reckless Ray Dinero, and this has been the 2024 recap. End of year debt recap. Let's go.
Money on my mind. Yeah. Focus, got no time for games. Nah. I don't play, man, I'm all about that financial literacy. Investing in my future, building generational wealth. Dollar bills, they be calling my name, but I ain't chasing fame, I'm chasing change. Learn the game, now I'm playing it smart. Putting my money to work, it's an art. I'm stacking paper, building my own empire. No more living check to check, I'm getting higher. Investing in stocks, real estate, and more. Gotta secure the bag, that's what I came for.